Hello, welcome to Practical C++ Programming, the beginner course. And in this tutorial, we will be discussing passing by reference. So what is passing by reference? Well, let's go ahead and make a few more functions. Let's just make one function, and we'll call it, we'll say void we'll say void print age, and we'll pass in an integer value called x. Okay, and we'll go ahead and put it here. And let me go ahead and show you before we do this, because I was going to save this for a different tutorial, but let's go ahead and show it to you here. Right now, if we run this program, everything runs fine because print age is declared above main. But if we move this function below main, when we run it, it'll run fine until we call it. When we call print age and pass it a value, we'll get an error. And that's because the code, the main function starts running, it says print age, it looks for it up here and it's not there. So what we have to do is we have to prototype it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to prototype it. All you have to do is up here in the under using namespace, you just type the name of the function. So you type void print age int x semicolon. And now whenever it gets to print age down here, it'll come up here and it'll look at the prototype, look it up, and then say, okay, I know this function exists, I'm going to go find it. And that's exactly what it does. So we're going to start prototyping our functions from now on using this method instead of declaring our function above main. So if we run it right now, you can see everything will work fine because we've prototyped the function now. But let's move on to what we actually came here for, and that's to learn what passing by reference is. So we have this function called print age. What we'll do is we'll just say cout x, and if we run this, if we say print age 7, we will see that it prints out 7. But what happens if we say, for instance, let's make a value int age equals 7. We pass in age, okay, and then here it's going to print out the age that we pass in. It'll print out 7, okay. But what happens if before we print out 7 we change x equals 5? So now we just pass 7 in for x, but we change it, we say x equals 5. So let's run that. See, now it prints out 5 instead of 7, even though we passed 7 into the function. Okay? Well, what happens if we're changing it here? The question is, if we're changing it in this function, if we're changing, because we're passing in 7, is it getting changed in this function? Well, there's one way to find out. We can print out age after we run it and see what we get. And so we get 5 and then 7. So obviously age is not changing except in this function. Well, what do we do if we want to change age in this function but do it in this function? For instance, here we're changing x equal to 5. Well, what if we wanted to change the value that we're passing in to 5 as well? Well, to do that, we have to pass by reference. And what that means is, instead of passing a copy of age into this parameter, we're going to pass the memory address of age into this parameter. And to do that, you simply just type in the ampersand symbol before your variable name. So now, whenever we run it, we have to type in our prototype up here as well, so don't forget to do that. So now when we run it, both equal 5. And the reason why is because, let me pull this back up so you can see both at the same time. So here we're saying int age equals 7, and as we declared in the prototype and in the function, when we pass age in right here, we're not passing in the value 7. We're passing in the memory address that this variable lies at in memory. So now in this function, x is equal to the value at the memory address of age, which is 7, and it changes it to 5. Well, that means it's also changing wherever age is at, the value at age to 5 as well. And so it's changing both the copy and the actual variable to 5. So let me see if I can kind of show you what I mean in one more quick example before we quit, because that's going to seem kind of confusing to you maybe at first. So we're going to do one more that's maybe a little bit more clear. So we're going to say, we'll leave this function, we just won't call it. We'll make another function called void change address. Okay, and we'll pass in a string, and we'll call it, we'll pass in a string and we'll call it address. Okay, and we need to prototype it up here, remember, so we'll say string change address string, and you actually, in the prototype, you can take out this x. It just has to know that you're passing in a string or an int in the prototype. So you could actually make the variable name, you know, y here and x down here, and it doesn't matter. But it's totally up to you if you want to leave it there, just so you have the same look going out through going throughout your code. That's fine. But I often just leave the value, the data type, and then the ampersand symbol if I'm passing by reference in the prototype parameter. And here I'll do the same thing. I'll just say string ampersand, which means we're passing in a string memory address here in this prototype. And then we'll add a semicolon to finish the prototype. Now in the change address function, we're going to say address equals 1400 College Drive. Okay, and that's all it's going to do. It's going to take the memory address that is provided, it's going to look at the value at that memory address, and it's going to change it to this. So let me show you again. So we'll say string my address equals 2418 Willow Road, and then we'll say cout address before function call my address end line, and then we'll say change address. We'll pass in my address, which is really the memory address, the memory location of this variable, and then we'll say cout address after function call my address. So even though the variable my address is being declared here as 2418 Willow Road, and it's not being changed anywhere in this function, we are passing it to this function as a memory address and changing it in here. Okay, so it's changing to 1400 College Drive, and when we return, it's going to be different. So watch. So we have void change address. Let's see what went wrong here. We have string address equals 1400 College Drive, and it's saying old declaration. So let's make sure our prototype is fine, and right here is what's wrong. So we had a string return type here. Let's change it to void, and let's run it again. Address before function call is 2418 Willow Road, but the address after the function call is 1400 College Drive. So you can see how it's actually changing the my address variable in this function. And just to prove it to you, we're going to take this out, that ampersand, we're going to take out this ampersand, and we'll run it again without the ampersand and look at the difference. It says address before function call 2418 Willow Road, address after function call 2418 Willow Road. And that's basically the basics of passing by reference, and in the next tutorial we're going to go over function overloading. So thank you for watching.